Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to deal with bad friends in your 30s. Now, of course, friendship is a very sensitive topic that we can all relate to. And there are definitely some people in our lives where we question, I'm not sure if they're a good friend or not because of various different factors, which I'm going to get into. Now, of course, there are different things we can use to measure things. There's one that I picked up in a book called The Portfolio Life, which talks about whether they share similar values, vision, or velocity. If they understand the importance that you have in life, or the things that you see as important. Number two, if they can see the big picture the same as you. And number three, are they willing to get there at the same stage? Now, not everyone's going to use that measure. Everyone has their own measure, but that is a way for us to see things. Now, of course, this topic is really important because it hinges upon the fact that friends influence us. They are essentially extended family. That's what they are. And so with that in mind, they affect our life goals and they affect our personal well-being. And if you have the wrong type of people, they can lead you down the wrong path. They really can. Now, in addition to this, it's important to understand that if you really want to live a life of purpose and a good sense of well-being, you need to make sure that you have the right circle, because a lot of us have a lot of losers. And we don't want to be that fifth person that ends up broke because those other four are not making the peas or the bread or the cheddar that we want. And so bear this in mind. You have to take this seriously as you move closer and closer and closer towards, again, the things that you're trying to achieve. So let's get into this topic in a bit more detail. Now, the reality is, this is the first point. The reality is not everyone is themselves. What do I mean by this? When it comes to psychology and the study of authenticity, there are sort of like three key points that we have to understand and remember. Number one, the ability to truly feel like we're in our own skin. Number two, the ability to actually do the things we say we do and not get influenced by other people. And number three, doing things on purpose, doing things because we want to do those things. Quite similar to the second one. And so with that in mind, it helps us understand if someone is being authentic or not. What do I mean by this? Well, the reality is, if you sense through intuition that someone is not being genuine or someone is not being sincere, or there is a bit of a script that's happening in order to get X result, i.e. for you to help them or to support them with something or whatever it may be, then you know that something's up, because if that support or help or thing that they want from you is not there, what ends up being the point of a relationship? Why can't you talk about other stuff that sometimes, good friendships are just talking a whole bunch of nothing, collectively. But there are situations where that doesn't happen. So moving on from that, it's about understanding and watching out for over self-monitoring. What I mean by this is, in the world of psychology, I'm not a psychologist, by the way, I'm just a trained coach that loves all of this stuff. In the world of psychology, there's this whole idea of self-monitoring, and this is the ability to refrain from acting in a primitive state in certain scenarios or situations. Now, self-monitoring is a good thing. It's not a bad thing, okay? However, if you over self-monitor, you're putting yourself in a situation where you are not necessarily being seen as authentic or sincere. Now, there is a balance. Self-monitoring is good to a degree where you're in certain situations where survival is at play, whether this is within a working environment or physical survival. But over self-monitoring shows that you're putting on a bit of a show. And social media will tell you that people want people who are as authentic as possible or sincere, so to speak. So watch out for excessive self-monitoring or praise or whatever it may be. There has to be a bit of realness to it. The other thing I'd like to say is you have to be able to combat any level of deception, okay? And this is where, how do I say this? If you're being vulnerable to somebody, and if you're trying to develop a relationship, but that's not being reciprocated in a certain way, then you know that actually it's going to be hard to develop a relationship, because all relationships are based on trust and vulnerability. And so you have to sort of like be strong enough to cut ties or at least minimize interaction if you feel like you're not getting that sincereness, okay? So that's the first thing. The first thing is not everyone is really themselves. The next thing I want to talk about is friendships will make or break you. What do I mean by this? Now, the ones that will sort of like make you are the ones who are lifting you up, who see your vision, who encourage you, who support you, whatever it may be, who give you words of affirmation. If we think about the 5 love languages, I'm not going to remember all of them, but we got acts of service, we got words of affirmation, we got gifts, we got, I guess, physical touch, so to speak, and we got activities. Oh, I remember them. And so, of course, the only thing that doesn't support this in terms of friendship capacity is physical touch from a sexual standpoint. But again, there are some friends who are kind of like in that whole sort of space, okay, with hugs, high fives, whatever it may be. Now, you have to understand that there are certain people who will do whatever it takes to get what they want. They're in it for the long term. They're in it for the long term. And you have to be 2 steps ahead to recognize and understand that actually this person is not about you. Like, they may tell themselves they are, but are they really about you? At the base of all human interaction, for most people, there is a strong polarization towards self-preservation, where people are purely thinking about themselves, and we've harbored and nested, unfortunately, narcissistic individuals. That's the reality of the situation. And so in order to sort of like manage this, and it looks like a bit of a repeat here, so apologies for that, you have to be in a situation where you need to be clear about what you specifically want. Not what they want. Don't try to people please, because that doesn't work. When you start people pleasing, you're the one who's taken advantage of. You rather have to be in a situation where it may feel rude, but in the long term, and in the short term, to be fair, it supports you as a person. So that's the second thing. Friendships will make or break you. The next thing is you'll take it for granted. Or what I mean by this is, if you are naturally a kind-hearted individual, you are more prone to manipulation. Even if you know you're being manipulated, because in your mind, you're telling yourself, I'm helping this person. And, you may be helping this person. But sometimes that help is being done at the detriment of your own health and well-being. And so that has to be at the highest priority for you. It can't be anything else. You can still help people if you understand that these people aren't taking the biscuit. And so the way you do this is, again, this always comes back down to those same 3: values, vision, velocity, especially the values piece, i.e. you deeming and understand what is important to you. You need to be clear of what that looks like for you. Do a bit of a values exercise, okay? Work out what that looks like. Select them from a list on Google, whatever it may be, and pick your top 5. And then every decision you make is based around those values. So if someone does something that's outside of that space, say no. N-O spells no. You just say no. You need to learn to say no. You set those boundaries. Don't allow the person to use your time consistently for like 2 hours on the phone, or, I don't know, one-to-one sessions where you're just helping them. What about you? What have you achieved? Can they even help you in those endeavors? It's not just about help when it comes to friendships, but it is about a sincerity. It is about a genuine care for that other person. And so protect yourself by being unreasonable in alignment to your values. That's how you deal with it. There has to be an unreasonableness. There has to be a bit of an aggressiveness. There has to be a bit of a, why is Michael acting weird? I know for a fact there are people who think that about me at the moment. And I don't care, because they don't have context. They don't have context. Everything that people do is for some sort of reason. And unfortunately or fortunately, those reasons are expressed. So don't be afraid to really put your foot down and say no, or just don't show up if need be. So that's that. You're going to be taken for granted. The next thing is, they're only there when you're doing well. Yeah. This is common because, you hear different musicians talk about this. You hear different artists and creatives and actors talk about this stuff, business individuals, where no one really believed in what they were doing. And when you got, I don't know, that new business deal or that new house or that new gizmo or whatever it may be, now you're rated. Don't wait for anybody to rate you. Don't wait for one person. Seriously, don't wait for one person at all. You have greatness within you, as Les Brown would say, and you have to believe that. And so if people are coming out of the woodwork, just be sure to categorize them in certain spaces. You don't have to overtly act a certain way and act like you're the bee's knees, but you need to be able to form a mental note of the individuals who have just come out of nowhere. And be fair about your decision making when it comes to this stuff, because again, it is a demonstration of loyalty, so to speak. If there are times that are hard and those people aren't around, again, they may have their reasons, but you have what you need to know, because your circle needs to be tight-knit. I mean, I was watching this thing called, well, I don't know what it's called, but it was based around Ikigai. It was on Netflix. And essentially, one of the key factors for living a long life is having a strong community, a strong amount of, joyous individuals around you who want to do life with you. So bear this in mind, like, be aware of deception when it comes to friendships, because it's more common than you think. And you get to this age, in your 30s, where you're like, oh, but if I cut off friends, I'm not going to have anybody. Maybe you don't cut them off. Maybe you just keep it very distant until you're in a position where you either confront them or you just leave them in the distance while you manifest or invest in other relationships that are within a network of people. We have a whole sea and connection of different people. They say there used to be 6 degrees of connections or contact. I think it's like 3 or 2 now because of social media and the internet. So be bold enough to just reach out to different people. But the next one is, they're only there when you're doing well. Following on from that, they don't want you to do better than them. Okay? Woof. Hit some chills. What do I mean by this? There are some friends who are uncomfortable with your success. They're just uncomfortable. I don't know if it's jealousy. I don't know if it's a sense of, I'm not doing good enough, and you are a measure for what that may look like in their heads. But that's the key thing. It's all in their heads. This is not true. This is not reality. For you, it's reality, but for them, it's not necessarily reality because you don't know what they're seeing. And so be cautious of those who kind of pause before you announce your success. Be careful of those who are over-celebratory. I didn't even say that right, but you know what I'm saying. They over-celebrate, so to speak. And there's a genuineness to it. There are some people who are naturally quite excited for you, and you can feel that. It doesn't feel fake. Now, others who are forcing it because they don't know how else to express themselves, And also be wary of those who react negatively, okay? Because those people who act negatively, hey, dangerous. Especially when you have a big event in your life, whether you have a new child, whether you get a new house, whether you're getting married, whether you're doing something else, whatever it may be. If that person doesn't want the utmost best for you in that specific situation, you have to be careful of them. Why wouldn't they want the best for you, regardless of what they think they know of you? The best is the best. So bear this in mind and utilize this in your toolbox when thinking about how to maneuver moving forward, because then you have to start thinking about access. Because it becomes dangerous. If you start announcing your success, which I don't always advocate for, but when the thing's done, then it's okay to do it. And then they react in these ways. That's taking your energy. And what I mean by that, because what does energy really mean? What I mean by that is it's taking away your sense of happiness and joy because you have picked up from them that they're not happy. So it makes you feel awkward or weird. To the point where you feel like, oh, can I announce my success? It also may make you feel like you can't trust the person. And so therefore you have to kind of distance yourself a certain way, which makes things awkward again. So bear all this in mind, because you can't be dealing with all this stuff. It's just too much. Life is happening, man. We're in an economic crisis. People are just trying to live, yo. So it's a lot going on. So bear that in mind. They don't want you to do better than them. okay? As long as you're on a certain level, they don't want you to do better than them. The next thing is, it's really all about them. We are living in an age where narcissism is real, it's real. They lack a sense of empathy. And what I mean by this is putting themselves in your shoes and having the ability to listen actively and deeply and empathetically, where they're able to ask effective, powerful, and empowering questions, summarizing and feeding back what you've said so you feel like you're heard. But if they're so quick to transition to themselves, you have a problem, my friends. You have a problem. So you have to decide if you want to maintain friendships like this in some capacity, if it's all about them. And if it's just unbearable for them to listen to you, man, make it unbearable for them to speak to you. It's that simple. Just make it unbearable. Like, just be a mirror if need be. In fact, I think that's some good advice. Sometimes you just need to mirror what you're experiencing, in your mind at least anyway, in relation to your friends, in conversation, face-to-face, whatever it may be. So it's really about them. It's not necessarily about you. Think about what a healthy balance looks like. It doesn't need to be a 50-50 split, but it needs to feel holistic overall. The next thing is they're very selfish. That kind of links to the narcissism point, but they're not willing to celebrate your success. Oh, it must be something else. Oh, maybe this happened. Oh, but that happened. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Who cares? They're just selfish. And they don't really care about you achieving what you need to achieve at the core. I'm not talking about from a surface. I'm talking about the core. These people don't want that for you. So you need to be able to surround yourself with people who are able to communicate genuinely with you and give you the right level of not just affirmation. I think there's a right healthy balance between support and challenge. But that challenge shouldn't feel like an attack. It should feel like, this is from an objective standpoint, which is hard to get to psychologically. It should feel like it's aimed to allow you to grow. There's this model called psychological safety, which is based on support and challenge. And if you have the right balance of support and challenge, so to speak, then you're in that space where you can grow. Okay, that's just how it works. That's where growth happens. So avoid being overshadowed by people who are selfish and don't want you to actually celebrate your wins, or at least express what winning looks like. It's a dangerous cycle, man. You have to be in a position where you feel comfortable to be yourself. You feel vulnerable to be yourself. You have the right level of trust to express how you need to express. Okay? The next thing after that is they don't really show up when it comes to the big events. What do I mean by this? Some of your friends may not physically or mentally want to support you. They're just checked out. Okay? So pay attention to their actions. Did they act funny? Did they act dodgy? Did they not make suggestions? Do they ignore things? Do they complain all the time? Do they try to minimize the enjoyment? What is it that they do? Because if they start doing this stuff, hey, my friend, it doesn't matter what your context of your relationship looks like. That feels a bit dangerous to me, because it's like, why are you trying to overshadow my joy? They may have valid points, don't get me wrong, and listen to those. But if it feels like it's just nagging, I'm not here for it, So don't let people take advantage for you for their own selfish gain. That's what people do. People are manipulative by nature. They are manipulative by nature. And so this is why you need to know who you are, so no one can budge you. You need to know who you are, because if you let people take advantage, they will. If there's a door and there's an opportunity for them to walk through it, they're going to do it. It's that simple. And so connect with self in terms of being clear about what is truly important to you. That comes back down to your background, your experiences, the things that you've done in life, the relationships that you've had. All of these different things form a context. What you like and don't like, what you're willing to compromise, that tells you about your sense of values. Do not let people bully you into their ideals. And the next one is, that I want to go over, is essentially it's hard for them to offer a helping hand. There are some friends who just want to chat with you and bust joke and all that kind of stuff there. That's perfectly fine. I like those types of friends. But some friends may not know how to help you. Some friends may not know how to support you. And if you encounter that you have these types of people, you need to evaluate the value of these friendships. You need to. Because why don't they want to help you? What is the issue? Bear this in mind. So essentially, to summarize, the first thing to understand is friendships should not be hard. They should not be hard. They should be experiences where you grow together through challenges and support, joy, and all these different things. The second thing is conduct a friendship audit. I've done this myself. My friends may not know this, but I've ranked all of them. Surprise! I've ranked all of them based on different qualities that relate to me. And so if you need to do the same thing, think about what values you think are important and use that as a scale and rank them out of 5. Give them a percentage. Trust me, there are people who are slacking, but it is what it is. And the third thing is, you are worth more than being taken granted for. 100%, so you need to believe this. And hopefully this video has given you the inspiration and the strength to take back control of your life and really live a life with values, vision, and velocity. If you want to see more videos like this centered around life management and portfolio career development, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.